Here we go. Russell, would you like to come up just for a minute or two? Now, if there's one thing I know about Russell, in fact, you better come over here. I'll give you this microphone. One thing I know about Russell is that he supports a football team. So, tell me, what is it like to support Celtic?
Correction, it's Rangers I support.
Oh, Rangers. Is that the mighty Rangers?
The one swear, yes,
Oh, the one swear. What division are they in now?
Division 3 champions.
Is that a real division? Division 3 champions, Division 3. That's actually the 4th division, though, isn't it? Because there's one above that as well, isn't there?
Yes,
Right, so it's really
above it.
So right, okay. So they're not very good then.
Well, no. You can't deny the blatant truth, unfortunately.
That was hard to admit, wasn't it? Actually. Anyway, you like football.
Yes.
So you support Rangers. Anyway, sorry, no. Anyway, you like football. You go to football.
Yes, I do.
Why do you go to football?
Because of the atmosphere, and it's good to go with your friends and things like that.
Okay. And I take it you went to see your Rangers like before they were really rubbish.
Yes, I did.
And was it different then?
Yes, it was that different.
Why was it different?
Well, they were playing top level teams and things like that.
Right.
That time.
Okay. And they were winning things. Did they win stuff then? Like
yes.
really important things?
Yes, they did,
Apart from Division 3 champion.
Of course.
Okay. So, you like it, it's good fun, you go with your pals, and there's entertainment.
Yes.
Is that
of a kind?
Oh, I'm glad you said that. Okay, but so that's why you go.
Yes.
And you tell other people about it. Because I've seen you on Facebook, like, you're on there saying that you're at the game and you're having a pie and things like that.
Yes,
Right, okay. So you're involved in it.
Yes.
It's something you spend time. Does it cost a lot of money to follow them?
It certainly doesn't, and especially for Division 3, it certainly costs more than it should have done.
Right. Because you're having to go to some really exciting places this season, eh?
Few circumstances I've avoided going to the exciting places.
All right. But it's like it's not like Glasgow and Edinburgh and Dundee and places like that. It's been like Peterhead and places like that,
yes.
Isn't it? Yeah, it's been the great places in Scotland. But nevertheless, you're still following them, even although they have they're in straitened circumstances, shall we say. It's been hard. Anyway, okay, thank you very much, Russell. That's great. So, the thing is that our story today is about these two men, Paul and Barnabas. And they were excited about something. Russell gets excited about the football. If you're ever on Facebook, he's on there all the time, liking this and photos of this and commenting on this. Do you know? He's excited about it. And Paul and Barnabas were excited, but they were excited about Jesus, and they were constantly telling people about Jesus. And there are 4 things that I want to mention from this story today. The first is that they were persuasive. If you listened to somebody like Russell who's really into football, they might be able to persuade you that you should go and you should maybe even follow their team because they're excited about it and they're passionate about it. Well, Paul and Barnabas were good at telling people about Jesus. And it tells us in the story that they spoke about Jesus and people believed what they said, and those people then also began to follow Jesus. So they didn't just tell stories. Russell could tell you stories about being at Ibrox. But then what makes it more interesting is how it has affected him and influenced him, how he's felt in the atmosphere of the big crowd and all of that kind of stuff. And that's what they did about Jesus. They didn't just tell stories as if Jesus was some kind of fairy story. They said, and this is how it affects us. This is the difference Jesus has made to us. Now, I want to ask you a question. Why should people come to the boys' brigade or the girls' brigade? There might be people here, adults, who might think, I could be a leader there. If only you would persuade me. If only you could persuade me. There might be some here who are thinking, well, I'm not really interested in that. Why would I bother? So tell me, why? Somebody tell me, why should they come? What's good about being in the boys' brigade? It's fun. Right, but so is, painting a door to some people. Okay. So what else? Yeah? Talking to God? To pray? Anybody? To be with your friends? To listen? Yeah, these are all good things. These are good things. Really? Who likes the marching? Yeah. Right, now there's a few more like the marching this morning than did on Friday, I have to say. But it's good to be at Boys' Brigade and Girls' Brigade. It's fun, there's lots of different things to do, and if you are interested in helping out at all, they would love to hear from you. And if you're interested in going, I don't know that there's anybody left, but if you please go to that. I could tell you, if you asked me, that I like football. But the truth of the matter is that I cannot remember the last time I was at a football match. Except I suspect it was when I was still in a real job and I was in the police and I was on duty. It was probably at the Cali Stadium in Inverness. Aye, there's always one. And although I say I like football, I don't go. It doesn't really mean that much to me. And if I miss it, I don't really care one way or another. But if you're really passionate, enthusiastic about a team, then missing it is something that you don't really want to do. I suspect Russell will be able to tell you the names of the team, the names of teams in years gone by, the names of the coaches and the staff and all of that. He'll be able to describe the inside of the stadium and how to get there and what's the best way. And he'll be able to do all of that because that's something that he's really excited about and into. He makes an effort to follow. He told us it costs money. He's been there. He knows what it's like, and so he'll be able to speak enthusiastically about it and persuade other people. Paul and Barnabas spoke enthusiastically about Jesus, and they were able to persuade people. And they were able to do that because they had actually spent time getting to know him. They had spent time speaking to Jesus and praying and reading the Bible, and so they were able to speak about him when they had to. The story says that people believed what they said. When a person believes that Jesus is worth giving up everything for, that's what Paul and Barnabas did. They had jobs, and here they were travelling around as missionaries telling people about Jesus. So when somebody believes that Jesus is worth giving up everything else to follow him, God sends his Holy Spirit to help and enable that person to follow and to get to know Jesus better. It's a really personal thing to be a follower of Jesus. And so it's easier for us today to speak about him if we spend time with him. But they weren't just persuasive, they were also persistent. The story says that they stayed in that city for a long time, telling people about God, speaking boldly about Jesus, it says. Because sometimes, it takes time to persuade people what you want to try to get them to understand and believe. Because sometimes they listen to what you say, but then they want to take time to think about it. And also, they want to take time to watch if it actually makes a difference to how you behave. Because you can say to somebody, I believe in Jesus, I want to do what Jesus says and tells me to do, but then if you don't actually do it, why would they believe you? And so it's about living as well as speaking. It wasn't easy for them because the story also tells us that while they were there speaking, these folk came and started telling lies about them. And they were nasty and horrible and got people to turn against Paul and Barnabas. And it was mentioned, I think Sam mentioned it on Friday night, that sometimes when you get a wee bit older and you're in the boys' brigade or the girls' brigade, people begin to ask, what are you doing? And they begin to make fun of you because you go. And that's really not nice. But it's good that there's so many of you this year who will be able to support and encourage each other to keep coming back and keep coming back. We need that. I don't know if you've ever watched boxing. Anybody like boxing? I don't particularly like boxing. See it occasionally. But what amazes me is that the boxers can be fighting each other and they can get punched right on the nose. Now, have any of you ever been punched on the nose? Yeah, I suspect. Yeah, right. Is it great fun? No, it's awful. Sometimes your nose might bleed, but certainly it makes your eyes water and you can't see anything, and it's really, really sore. And yet here are these guys who choose to go in and to box each other. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't understand. Why would you do that? Why would you put yourself through that pain all the time? I don't understand. But they do it, and they kind of get used to the pain. And there's a courage in getting in there, knowing that it's going to hurt. And sometimes it's like that for Boys Brigade and Girls Brigade members. And for those of us who want to follow Jesus, sometimes we have to just do it knowing that it's going to hurt. Knowing that sometimes people are going to say things that are hurtful and horrible and mean. But we just have to do it anyway because it's the good thing and the right thing to do. So Paul and Barnabas were persistent in practicing what they taught despite the opposition that they faced. So they were persuasive, they were persistent, and they were also perceptive. That means that they were aware of what was going on round about them, about the attitudes of the people, the behavior, the atmosphere round about them. I suspect that Russell will be able to tell you of occasions when he's at a game and the atmosphere changes like that because maybe the other team score a goal. Or maybe there's a dodgy decision by the referee and they're all shouting for a penalty and the referee says, no, it's not a penalty. And the atmosphere just changes. You've got to be aware of all of these things. Well, my family and I were in Israel at Easter time. And I want to show you a little picture. Here we are. That's one of the streets in the old city in Jerusalem. And some of them are like that, and then another one. Some of them are like that, covered over, busy, loads of people around, and then some of them are a bit quieter, and then some of them are a wee bit dark, and you don't really know where they go. And we were going through these streets, and we were looking for a church. And we were walking down, and it was one of these really, all of a sudden it just got really quiet. And we were the only people on the street. And we were walking along, and then all of a sudden, as if from nowhere, I realized that there was a man walking right beside me. But he was almost touching me. He was, you know how sometimes you can be too close? Well, it was kind of like that. He was just a wee bit close. And then I was conscious that my wife was on this side, and there was another man who had appeared on the other side. And I thought, ooh, I don't really like this. So I had my camera bag with me, and Linda had her bag, so I kind of moved them over, and I said, just hang on to your bag. And then I realized there were people behind us talking, and I couldn't understand what they were saying. But we were just walking down this wee narrow street. And fortunately, I had been there before, the previous day. And so I knew that just a few meters further on, there were some steps down to our left that were going to take us to where we wanted to go. And then this man behind us started to shout, "Stop! Stop!" Now, what would you do? What would you do if that was you? Stop, you would stop. What would you do? Stop. Listen to him, would you? Oh, no. Right? Let me just tell you right now, no, you would not. You would run. Right? Run as fast as you can possibly run. And that's about being aware. It's about being perceptive. And then we didn't stop. So then he started saying, "Stop, stop. It's closed down there. You can't go that way." But I knew you could because I had been there before. And so we walked on a bit further. And when we got to the steps, I said to Linda, "Right, run!" Whoosh, off we went down these steps. And they didn't come down there because, next photo, when we got there, we got to the church and there were hundreds of people. So we were safe because there were lots of other people round about. And that was just about being aware of what was happening. Because I suspect they were after her bag and my camera and my wallet. But we were okay. So then here's Paul and Barnabas. They've been at Iconium for a wee while, and what they discover is that the city is becoming divided. Some people believe, some people don't believe, and they're beginning to get a bit annoyed with each other. And then they heard that some people were going to come and throw stones at them. That's how they used to kill people in those days. They stoned them, took them out. They literally threw stones until they were dead. And Paul and Barnabas left. It wasn't that they were frightened. It was just that they realised there was nothing more they could do in that place at that time. So it was time to move on. So off they went. But then there's another way in which Paul is very perceptive. He gets to this bit in the story where there's a man. And do you know, it says, in the one verse, it says 3 times that he couldn't walk. It says in verse 8, he was lame. He had been lame since birth, and he had never walked. Now, when you read the Bible and you come across bits like that, you know that something amazing is going to happen because they're emphasizing this point. And they're emphasizing the fact that here's a man, and as far as Paul and everybody else looking at him was concerned, here was a man who never walked and never would walk. There was no hope for this man to walk. But what we're told is that as he had been listening to Paul speaking, and he believed what Paul was saying. And Paul realized that as he was speaking, and so Paul was perceptive. He understood what was going on. God spoke to him and said, Paul, this man believes. So Paul said to him, get up. Imagine that. He's a man. He's never walked, never been able to walk. And Paul just says to him, get up. But the even more amazing thing is, he did. He got up and he began to walk about. He was instantly healed. And you know, I think that kind of thing can still happen today if we simply ask God to guide us to people who need his help and his power, if we're perceptive enough to respond to what the Holy Spirit is saying to us. And so here they were persistent, they were persuasive, they were persistent, and they were perceptive, but also, lastly and very quickly, they had power. This wasn't them doing it. This was God working through them. Verse 3 says that God confirmed the message of his grace by enabling Paul and Barnabas to do miracles. Now, you can't do a miracle unless God does it through you. It's not us that do them. God does them and uses human beings in order to do them. Miracles like the healing of this man who was lame, who had been lame since birth, and who couldn't walk. And all of a sudden he's up, walking about. Why? Because God's grace was there, and the man was healed. And so, as leaders in the boys' brigade and in the girls' brigade, you need to be persuasive. You need to be persistent, and you need to be perceptive. Because you've got to try and teach about Jesus. But you also need power, because you've also got to live like Jesus and set an example. And you can't do that on your own. So you need to ask God to help you to do that. But that's not just true of the leaders in the boys and girls brigade. It's also true for you boys and girls. And it's also true for all of us adults. We can't live for God without asking God to help us to do it. And the thing is that his promise is that that's exactly what he'll do. He wants us to live for him, and he helps us to do that. Every one of us needs power from the Holy Spirit to follow Jesus.